Hi, I'm Stan Munslow of Stan Munslow Studio in Coventry, Rhode Island. If you're a guitarist, you know very well that chords are your bread and butter. They're your vocabulary. The problem often comes from the fact that we use the same chords all the time. How many times have you seen G, C, D, E minor, and so on? So what I want to show you today are some variations for those chords so that you can add more variety to your music, but perhaps also some more intensity or some more coolness or some more contemporary flavor to the sound. The important thing to remember before I show you these fingerings is that they are 100% optional. They are completely your choice. If the music says to play A, you can play A sus4 or A6. That's totally within your rights as a musician. It's your artistic license. So I want you to think of chords as like the paint on a house. If you paint your house another color, the appearance changes, but not the house. It's still the same house, the same rooms, the same furniture, just the appearance. So likewise with chords, if you say that you're going to play A6 instead of A, that's perfectly good. It doesn't change the chord's function. The only line you can't cross when it comes to modifying chords is that if it says major, you can't play minor, and if it says minor, you can't play major. All right, so let's start off right at the beginning of the alphabet. We'll talk about A chords. Now, your regular plain old A major chord is that. It's a very happy, normal sound. So here's one option that's very popular. You don't press down on the second string. You leave the second string open and you get that sound, okay? And that's called A2. It used to have other names in the past, but nowadays that's pretty much where the world is going. This is A2. Now, if you put back your finger onto the second string, a fret higher, you have A4. They used to call that A sus4. Now it's just A4. Very modern chord. Now you can flatten down your first finger right onto the bottom 4 strings, and you get A6. Alright? That's been around a long time. A6. And the last popular A chord variation is to move the note from the 3rd string down 1 fret. And that's going to give you a little triangle like that. And that's A major 7. What I like about major 7 chords is that they take a little bit of the happiness away. So if you think your music is sounding a little too bright or too cheery, major 7s make great substitutes. Now, as you know, there are really no popular B chords on the guitar, so we're just going to skip right over B and go to C. Everybody uses this C chord all the time. All right, there's your ordinary C chord that's probably been around the block way too many times. If you remove your first finger, you got C major 7. Or, if you add your little finger onto the second string, there's your C2. Now, because of the way C is fingered, it doesn't give you as many options as with the A chord. All right, so those are the main 2. I'll show you one more. I'm trying to keep these fingerings easy, and this one's a little more work, but it sounds so great that it's totally worth it. You got the 4th string, 5th string, the 2nd, and the 1st. All right, so it's got a lot of fingers going on there, but it has such a bright, nice, powerful ring to it. Kind of is worth the trouble sometimes. Now, the most popular chord pretty much anywhere in pop, rock, or country is D. So we got a few nice variations for D. So here's regular plain old D major. If you release the 1st string, there's your D2. Or if you add your little finger onto the first string. There's D4, formerly D sus4. Or if you let go of the finger from the second string, this one isn't as common. It's got a nice little sound to it. That's D6. And finally, the easiest one, and probably the prettiest one, is to just flatten your first finger down on the bottom 3 strings. And there's that sort of melancholy major 7 again. So there's D major 7, very easy chord and very pretty. Now, E is a nice, big, solid chord as is. So oftentimes, you don't really hear people going out of their way to change it much. They kind of like it the way it is. But here are a few variations. If you just have your 5th string, 4th string, and 3rd string all in a row, there's E sus4, E4. Or you can go back to the regular fingering again and add your little finger onto the 2nd string. E6. Or you can actually move your little finger down to the 1st string. And there's your E2. So those are some beautiful variations of E you can use any time. Now F is that little shrimpy chord that nobody can ever seem to find much to do with. But one thing you can do is you can release the 3rd string. That's a very contemporary sound. F sus2. Or you can put that finger back and release the 1st string. So now you just got your 1st finger on the 2nd string instead of barring it down flat. Alright, so here we have this. Sometimes when I play that chord for people, they immediately recognize it. They say, wasn't that in Stairway to Heaven? And it definitely was. That was F major 7. Now, since F is such a weak little chord that a lot of people don't want to use just because of the fact that it's so small, one thing you should know is that with any of these F chords, even the standard F major, you can hit the 5th string open. It does what they call destabilizing, which means it makes the F chord, when you play it like that, it seems to want to go somewhere. That's perfectly okay. You like your music to be forward moving. So unless you're using it as the ending of your song, you can always add, there's F major 7, but with 5 strings. So it's not quite so small. And finally, G. All right. Now, a lot of people play G. This is the standard old-fashioned, it's been in every music book forever. But you know, this finger on the 5th string is best left out. If you remove your 1st finger and then flatten down your middle finger just enough, say, to block the 5th string out, you really don't want that note in there, the added finger. It creates, again, a destabilizing effect on the chord that's people always just put it there because they want to have something on the 5th string, but you don't need to. You can just block the 5th string out. So that being said, here's standard G major. If you release the 1st string, G6. The Beatles used to use that chord a lot, G6. Or, if you take the note that was on the 1st string and move it down a fret to the 2nd fret, favorite, G major 7. Okay? And one more, if you go back to the standard fingering and add in the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and there's G2. So there are a bunch of different fingerings. You can always replay the video to catch up on the ones you really want to try to remember and incorporate. Just remember that A, these chords are all optional. You don't need anybody's permission to play a D6 instead of a D. And likewise, if the music said to play D6, you don't need to. You could just play regular D or any of the other ones. So you always have all of those options, all of those freedoms, and that's part of your artistic license as a guitarist. is to not just play the exact chord that the music asks for, but to play it the best way you see fit. If you think such and such a chord has a better mood to it, or you're just looking for some variety, you can do that as well. In fact, some people will change out the chord in the middle. They might go from D to D major 7, and just switch it back and forth to create a little variety that way. That's really good, especially if you're going to be playing the same chord for a long period of time. You want to be able to switch it out to some of these. Now you'll notice that these chords, none of them, they sound pretty, they sound intense, but none of them really sound cool. That's a whole separate animal. We'll talk about in our next video. We'll talk about the magic of 7 and what you can do with plain old 7th chords you might not be aware of. So we'll cover that in another video. Finally, last point is to mix these up, experiment, and get to know the ones you feel most familiar with. So until next time, I'm Stan Munslow at Stan Munslow Studio. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.